Hey there, everybody. It's Octavian here back again. I've got another shoutcast for you from the highest levels of solo queue play. It's going to be another episode of Challenger Casts. I would venture to say which number this episode is, except I do not recall at the moment, and I don't want to make a fool out of myself by saying the wrong number, which I have done far too many times in the past, because counting is hard, friends. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is an episode of Challenger Casts, and let you guys look at the title and figure out exactly which one it is. I believe in you. You can do it. Anyways, looks like we're going to be having red team starting off fairly standard jungle start, going with a Jarvan jungle, going to be clearing away the Gromp camp. Pretty standard thing to do nowadays in season. I think we're still in. Are we in season 5 preseason or season 4 postseason? We're in the limbo space between 4 and 5, and on the updated map, it is most common to start at the Krugs or the Gromp, which are the replacements, by the way, for the Golems or the White Camp, because they give you such a powerful smite buff, which then allows you to clear the rest of the jungle much more effectively and come out at a lot higher hit points. But let's do away with all of the general knowledge and get into some of the specific matchups here. It is going to be down in the bottom lane, a Jayce and Soraka versus a Graves and Nami, and that is, I like to focus on the bot lane because I know the most about it. I've had a lot of experience with the bot lane, but honestly, I have to tell you guys, this bot lane is not going to be incredibly interesting, most likely, because they are both heavily sustained lanes, especially the Soraka, very focused on trying to sustain up the lane and just survive, poke, wait until the late game, especially with the Jayce alongside her, and keep going then. But the top lane, we have a bit more interesting action up there. Looks like Jayce is going to be going right in onto Vladimir, doing a good burst of damage. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, both sides are trying to push as hard as they can to get that early 2-level advantage. And it looks like Moonway and Camgafar, I think that's how you pronounce that, are going to be getting the early level 2 because they did manage to push up a bit more quickly, which is kind of what I expected here, especially at level 1. Graves and Nami are going to be having a ton more burst than a Soraka Jayce can manage to put out, especially at levels 1 through 3. They just have a much stronger 1 through 3. Now, very nice bubble lands onto Conbolt Romeo. He takes a bunch of damage. The sustain is there from Soraka, though, and that, I think, is going to be the picture of the rest of this lane. Jayce trying to survive throughout the lane, trying her best to get all the farm that is thrown her way, and Graves trying to keep the pressure on as much as possible because he is not going to be able to match a Jynx's damage output in teamfights later on. In terms of sustained damage. In burst, he's probably going to be able to outdo her, but if the team fight goes on for any good length of time, it is going to be the Jayce winning out in the end, and in the late game, a lot more of the responsibility for each team fight and for the match as a whole does fall into the shoulders of the AD carry. But let's move on out of the bottom lane, even though the camera's still focusing down here. We can swap to talking about some of the other matchups. In the mid lane is going to be an Azir versus a Lux. Now, as you can see, it's 14-15 in CS, and that's kind of what I thought would happen in this lane. I didn't really think it would break in one direction or the other until some real action happened. But Panchi is ganking up in the top lane. RF Legendary might be in some trouble here. The slow from the Chilling Smite is going to lock him up. He flashes away from the Flag and Drag. He was waiting for that, but perhaps he waited a little bit too long. First Blood goes over to Panchi's Jarvan jungle, and that is one of the better places to have it because Jarvan has such a powerful early game. But here is Paz going under the tower, just at the edge of the tower's range, gets snared up by beautiful Lux play, and he's going to be picking up the second kill, this time going over to blue team. Now down on the bottom side of the map, we do finally have some action here. Moonway and Conbolt Romeo are going at the 1v1 alongside their supports doing a sort of 1v1 of their own, and heal was burned from the side of blue team. And no summoners were actually traded for that from Red, so they certainly came out ahead there. I mean, Dodo 8 and Conbolt are going to be able to sustain back up in the lane. They are going to be able to make use of that Soraka-ness and get a lot of their health back. As you can see already, they've gotten a good amount back. Dodo 8 landing some Star Calls to regenerate himself, and of course, using his Astral Blessing to sustain Conbolt through all that damage. But having the lack of the summoner spell is going to mean that in some sort of burst fight, which is what Graves is looking for anyways, they're going to have a bit less healing in those few seconds when the fight is lasting, rather than over the long-term laning phase. So Moonway and Kamgafar certainly coming out ahead in that particular trade, even though the health bars are about the same on both sides. And it looks like they're going for even more of a fight here. Jarvan is coming down to gank. However, very nice Flame Choppers will lock up Moonway for a little bit longer, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. That heal would have been quite useful right now. Combo forced to flash away. The Ignite is burning under the Chilling Smite as well, and Panchi comes into the tower, but the heal, the Astral Blessing from Dodo keeps him alive just long enough that Panchi's going to pay with his life for the kill he picks up. Moonway and Dodo 8 are going at the 1v1 now, and Moonway actually can't really continue this fight. The minion damage as well as the red buff that Soraka is now bearing is going to be able to force the Graves to go ahead and back in the bush. Of course, Dodo's not going to be able to chase after and finish off the kill, but Cloud and Nguyen is in the mid lane and going for a gank of his own. Meanwhile, up in top lane, we have a battle all over every lane in this map right here. Hashinshin doing a ton of damage to RF Legendary. He needs just one more auto attack, one more spell, anything will finish this guy off, but he's too far back under the tower, so Vladimir's not going to be able to chase, and actually RF Legendary does some burst of his own from a distance. Jayce quite adept at doing that, and they're traded down to about the same hit points. RF Legendary is going to flash forward, but actually rather going to get flash forward onto, but he had just about finished drinking a health potion, so he had enough health that Hashinshin's Q was not going to kill him there. However, we do have Panchi returning to the top lane. He's sitting in the bush there, and if RF Legendary sticks around, he might find himself on the wrong end of a spear. He does get away from the Flagon Dragon, so he's going to be able to survive, at least for now. In the mid lane, however, Beautiful Korean is getting bullied away by Paz, and so long as Paz has good positioning, he'll be able to continue to stay at least even in that lane in terms of CS. But that early kill he gave up to Beautiful Korean, it might be a big deal unless Panchi comes in here to the mid lane to make something happen. The Flagon Drag is flashed away, but the Chilling Smite is there as well. That Smite has been so useful for Panchi over and over again, showing why junglers have been picking up that option every single game pretty much that I've been casting recently. And it's going to be forcing the flash and the barrier out of Beautiful Korean and send him on home back to base with barely any of his health left. Here we are, 7 minutes into the game, and both teams have 2 kills to their names and 9.7k gold each. This is an incredibly even match right now. Hasn't really broken in either direction, though we've seen some good performances from a few of the players on either side. Particularly Panchi's Jarvan jungle. He's 2-1-0 right now, and he's looking to be building into quite a bit of damage, probably going for that warrior enhancement on his jungle item pickup. And that's quite a nice item for Jarvan. He can use all of those stats to great effectiveness. He has very good base damage values as well as already shredding armor with his Q, so getting more armor shred on there just makes him hurt incredibly hard, hit like a truck in the early game, because that's how base damage and armor penetration works. Whereas if you want to go for more late game, then you build just raw damage on someone who has good AD scaling rather than perhaps better base values. But I digress. We can move back to some of the other action, perhaps some of the other builds as well, as it looks like Azir is going to be getting the second blue buff of the game. Nice guy Panchi. Gonna be trying to help out Paz in his lane by giving him a little bit more mana sustain there. And as I was saying, we should take a look at some of the item builds. We've seen a really early pair of mobility boots from Rengar. Cloud Nguyen wanting to get around the map really quickly. He hasn't had as much of an impact as Panchi has on the lanes. However, his farming has been on point. He has more than double the CS of his jungling counterpart, and I suppose that's the trade-off for not having the focus on laning and ganking that this Jarvan has had this game. And there's the bubble not quite landing onto Combo Romeo. The W is tossed out onto Kamgafar, but Kamgafar is going to dodge away from it. And the dominance of this Graves and Nami is going to continue in the bottom lane. It's not exceptionally dominant, but it is certainly in favor of them, even if not by a ton. Hashinshin and Legendary, again in the 1v1 in top lane. Hashinshin does have the advantage right now because Vladimir has a proper level 6 ulti, so in a 1v1 duel he does have that power spike that Legendary simply can't claim to, but it looks like Legendary is going to be going ahead for this kill anyways. The attack speed buff from his W gets transferred over to melee form. Very nice trick right there, but Hashinshin will turn around and he'll get the kill. As I was saying, Vladimir past the level 6 does have the ability to outduel a Jayce in lane, and now Cloud Nguyen is coming in to try and avenge his fallen top laner. He is going to pick up the kill, at least getting one back for blue team, but Panchi is continuing his pressure all over the map, this time bringing it to bot lane, and Convolt Romeo is all alone, doesn't have a support, doesn't have a summoner spell to his name, and is going to be going down. Actually, he had heal up at that point, but it would have been pointless to cast it, and looks like red team's going to go for their first global objective of the game after picking up a kill in the bottom lane. Moonway dashes in, only to be immediately knocked away by the dragon. I love that it does that now that it gets up and sends out a little gust of wind. I like the sort of more flavor that they've added to all the larger jungle monsters, but I'll get back to that in a second, as it looks like blue team is going to be contesting for this. Here comes the Jinx ult, actually brings the Graves very low. He quick draws out of the final spark, just about saving his own life, as now Paz and Panchi are caught up in the middle of blue team. They lay down a lot of walls, a lot of divides, and beautiful Korean gets healed by Dodo8, just about saves his life, even through the Ignite. So he's going to be able to get out of there, trading a kill onto Azir for, well, nothing. And now they're going to go ahead and try and start off the dragon themselves, though this might be a little bit dangerous. Vladimir has roamed from the top lane. He is here, and he is looking to cause some trouble for blue team. He gets slowed up by Dodo8. A bunch of bursts coming out of Legendary as well. And the dragon is already below half health. Hashinshin is the only one here able to try and contest for his team. He gets knocked away. He gets taken down very, very low. He gets hit by the zap. When is he going to pool? What is he going to use it to avoid? Finally, at the very end, he does avoid an auto attack that would have killed him, but as soon as he comes out, he gets hit by the shock blast that Legendary fires out instantly, and he picks up the kill. Hashinshin, perhaps timing his pool a little bit off, does give up his life and doesn't even really put up much of a contest for the dragon. This is the first time we've seen a real lead go over to one team or the other. Blue team picking up something of a lead for themselves. It's not a ton, but it's certainly there. They have the first dragon buff, and they've got a few hundred more gold over their enemies. This is a close neck-and-neck game, guys. I am having a ton of fun casting it. Looks like Paz might be willing to roam here. He's pushed up the lane, and that's something we haven't really seen. I mean, he came down to the dragon fight, but he hasn't roamed anywhere else out of this lane, and he hasn't been having the easiest time of it. I mean, he's got a good CS lead, but he's 0-2. His appearance at the dragon fight ended up in an unfortunate death, and the last time that we saw him attempt to duel his opponent mid laner, he got trapped under the tower just at the edge of the range, and beautiful Korean picked up the solo kill, but it looks like his lane is the one going to be ganked right now. There's the flash away from the bubble, but they might still have enough damage to bring him down. Yeah, beautiful Korean is not long for this world. Moonway picks up a kill, 5-5, once again evening out the kill scores, and once again evening out the gold pretty much to the 100. There's a difference in the tens in terms of gold between these teams. It's essentially non-existent. Looks like red team's bot lane is coming back into their own lane here. There was a blue trinket used by Jayce, though, spotted them out coming down and got herself into a safe position, so Conbolt not going to be ganked right there. And Paz is going to continue the push in the mid lane. He's got this turret down below half health, and while Azir is not entirely too quick at taking out a turret, he can push the waves up fairly effectively. These soldiers do have AoE strikes, by the way, so if you position them in the correct spot in a wave, you can take down a wave very, very quickly, especially if you're into that late game with Azir and you have tons and tons of attack speed because of his passive where he turns cooldown reduction into attack speed. It can be very, very valuable for him to be able to do that and then push up the waves real quick and be a split pushing threat. But there's the flash forward from Kamgafar, but he doesn't land the bubble. And so it's just a little bit of harass. Not entirely worth the summoner spell, but you miss 100% of the flash bubbles that you miss. And that you don't take is the quote I was going for, but it's also true that you miss 100% of the ones that you miss. You can't fault me for that. It was technically correct. Panchi is down in the bottom lane looking to go for some sort of gank, while up in the top lane, Legendary and Hashinshin are going at the 1v1 again. This is a little bit of a familiar story here. Hashinshin's going to pop the ghost as we swap back down to the bottom lane where Cloud9Guian has shown up for a impromptu 3v3. Moonway has enough burst to immediately pick up the killing spree off of Soraka, and Cloud9Guian is going incredibly low as well. The collateral damage not even used yet. Finally gets bursted down to try and take out the Rengar, but he gets away with barely any health left. Now here's the flag and drag in to knock two people up, and Kamgafar has no mana, has no health, is going to be dying, and Paz is here to try and clean up for his team, but I don't know if he's going to be able to. Cloud9Guian actually goes down. The Emperor's Divide providing enough burst for Paz to take him out, and now beautiful Korean is very low, probably his next target. He sends the soldier forward and he takes out the kill. The Soraka ulti is around to save Canbolt Romeo, though. Oh, that burst from Paz nearly brought him down. But Canbolt Romeo is going to be able to get out of there. Conbolt Romeo is going to be able to get out of there with barely any of his health left and multiple dead allies. That trade, I would have to say, went entirely evenly. Isn't that a surprise? The teams are still only 100 to 200 gold, if that, away from one another. I have no idea where this game is going to break. I can, though, tell you where it is likely to break if it heads to the late game. Though honestly, actually, now that I look at the champions, it looks like they're even there as well. But RF Legendary and Hashinshin are going at the duel once again. They are even on hit points. That seems to be the theme of this game. Hashinshin going very, very low. One more auto attack, one more Q. He dodges it with the pool. And both of them get out of there with about 200 to 300 health left. It was even. I feel like I could just boil down my shoutcast to saying it was even over and over again about whatever happens on the screen, and it would be entirely accurate. And yet somehow, this is a wonderful game to watch. I am having tons of fun. I hope you guys are too. Kanuguyan coming to the top lane, a Q, an E, perhaps a W. All of the spells are landing, but not that Q from RF Legendary. The pool is used to dodge it out, and he flashes all the way over that giant wall. Takes some precision to be able to do that, so well done by Legendary to get over the wall there. And nobody dies, and the game stays even, and I am still unsure as to where this game is going to be going. There's the snare landing onto Moonway. He has the buff, but up in the top lane we have a little bit of a fight. Panchi's going to be going down, but trades evenly with the enemy jungle. Hashinshin now going very, very low. Does pop into the pool, dodges to the side of the final spark, but goes down to an auto attack anyways, and the Hemoplague is just going to fizzle out doing negligible damage. Kamgafar and Muwei pushing the bottom lane, and we're still even on kills on the board. I am legitimately surprised at how amazingly steadfast this game is holding. And Legendary is going to push up the top lane, while our two bottom laners go ahead and push up the bottom lane. Mid lane turret falls, and it's the first discrepancy between these teams. There is a 2-0, soon to be 3-0 lead for red team, though actually Legendary does manage to take down the turret on top. Jayce very, very good at pushing those turret objectives, taking them down very quick with his ranged form W, the hypercharge. Gives him maximum attack speed for his next 3 auto attacks. It doesn't matter what attack speed you have when you cast the spell, it hops all the way up to 2.5 attack speed, which, weirdly enough, makes full attack speed Jayce not as viable as it could be. Not that it was viable in the first place, but it actually, like, puts a crimp into full attack speed Jayce because he then gets literally 0 benefit out of his ranged form W. Because if you do full attack speed Jayce and you have the 2.5 attack speed because you're playing an incredibly silly build and you really wanted to do that for some reason, then when you're in ranged form and you cast your W, your attack speed goes to what it already is, and so you don't actually get a buff. Now most of the time that's not a problem, but it's fun because it technically could be, and Riot has technically created a spell that in the right circumstances would do literally nothing for the person that it's supposed to be buffing. Anyways, that's probably not going to happen, certainly not going to be happening in this game since it looks like much more of a standard Manamune and then possibly into a Last Whisper Jayce build that we have from RF Legendary in the top lane. I would have loved to see a full attack speed Jayce, but it probably wouldn't have been doing as well as it is. Now Panchi going very low as he jumps over the wall. Pause coming in as well, forcing Dodo to flash over the wall, but Hashinshin is here, and Hashinshin's going to get stunned up. He's going to get bursted down by Combo Romeo, but off to the side, there is a Graves doing some burst of his own, and so far, we are continuing the trend. It would be sacrilege if one team were to, for any length of time, actually get a kill lead over someone. It looks like blue team's turn to get a kill here, isn't it? Now Pause dashing forward, he gets the double kill, and red has more kills than blue. This is like a miracle right now, guys. Panchi gets hit by the zap, and wanders his way on out of the jungle, and they might actually go for the dragon here, though Legendary takes a kill back for blue. Might have been caught out a bit in doing so, though. He is Jayce. He does have a lot of speed bumps, so he is going to be able to run on out of there, but he's playing with fire right now. He's walking towards that bush, and there it is, 14-14, ladies and gentlemen. But Pause is going low. Now it's 15-14. We are out of balance once more. The force, it must be restored to balance. Red team has to get a kill here. They do have a 3-2 turret lead, though, so they do have one other number that's one higher, so when you add up the turrets and the kills together, they're still even, so I'm going to count that as being even. Anyway, RF Legendary in the bottom lane with that 2.5 attack speed buff is going to go ahead and deal some good damage to the bottom lane turret, but he's going to have to back off there since Graves shows up in time to push him away. And Hashinshin and Cloud Nguyen might be going for a little bit of a fight here. Beautiful Korean for backup alongside the Rengar. Now Dodo 8 is here as well. This is a 3v1 for Hashinshin. He does have the Zhonya's Hourglass, though. He pops that to perhaps just delay a little bit longer. He flashes away. He's still survived. He's got tons of sustain. He is a Vladimir. Beautiful Korean, though, turns around. He has the burst, and he instantly takes him down. Hashinshin getting a little bit too cocky. Perhaps didn't realize that beautiful Korean has a Magi Soul Stealer and is starting to stack it up. That's a lot of damage coming out from the Lux. RF Legendary going down fairly low. He's below half of his hit points, as are a lot of his team members. Panchi taking advantage of this is going to come in, but does a burst of damage before he goes down. RF Legendary is going to be able to pick up the counter kill as is the tradition in this game. Cloud Nguyen trying to leap in, gets a bunch of damage back onto his face, and Beautiful Korean gets slowed up by a point-blank tidal wave. And this is just skirmish after skirmish. Basically, no true engagements. We've traded a top laner for a jungler so far, but the team's not really in any position to follow up. However, Combo Romeo is perhaps a little bit out of position. Pause is there for a lot of damage, but Beautiful Korean has hit their back with some shields, and some ults from soloq are going to keep him alive too, and so they actually turn around and bring down Pause. Nearly a lot of them went low, nearly giving up kills, but not quite. And so it's a 1-for-0 trade for blue team, who are starting to pull ahead in this one. Perhaps the dragon is going to be an objective to be contested at some point in the future. That was a very wise statement, was it not? Perhaps teams will try to kill the dragon. It's like I do this for a job. Cloud Nguyen going in the 1v1 with Moonway here. The red buff is taking, and it looks like he's going to be able to get the post-mortem kill. But Nguyen got the shutdown out of that, along with an assist for Soraka, because Soraka is very good at getting assists. And so that's actually going to be a more valuable kill for Rengar. And woo, the dragon nearly stolen away. Zap came in, but it was smite secured by Panchi, so good job by him. And the dragon is going to be going over to red team, giving them their first stack of that stacking buff that dragon so delightfully gives nowadays. Blue buff, speaking of buffs, going over to Pause, while Beautiful Korean and Conbolt Romeo choose to swap over to the mid lane and go for a little push of their own. They take down the mid lane turret, evening up the turret score, as it should be here. We are playing with an even scale between both teams, of course, and we still have yet to see this game really break in one direction or another, and those are the best kinds of games. Now, Kamgafar might be in some trouble here. He's caught out in the jungle. He does get hit by the binding. He turns around with the bubble, but Beautiful Korean dodges backwards to avoid it so he can keep on putting out that damage. And Dota Wait, of course, as a support, will pick up the kill. Hashinshin now turning around with the ulti, does do some burst onto RF Legendary, who came in for this engage, but maybe doesn't want it anymore. Knocks Hashinshin away, but Hashinshin has Ghost, and he has a lot more damage in his back pocket. So Vladimir going to be winning the 1v1 between Jayce and Vladimir at this point, which I think is about how it should go, honestly. Vladimir has tons of ability to hold out a long engaged 1v1, whereas Jayce is better at poking someone down and then finishing them off when they're low on health, not really engaging on someone when they're really high on health to begin with, because he has a good burst of damage, but then he kind of peters off right after that. Whereas Vladimir certainly does not peter off during fights. The pink ward does spot Cloud Nguyen, so Moonway manages to dash to the correct direction to dodge away from him, and this time the 1v1 is not going to trade evenly. Instead, it's going to simply go in favor of the Graves. He picks up a kill on a kitty cat, and he picks up a red buff as well. Zap flies out and hit Pause in the back, and it looks like we may have a little bit of a quieter moment on the map here, so I can look down and mention some of the item builds that have started to formulate and continue to formulate throughout the game. There is a Magi Soul Stealer sitting in the inventory of Beautiful Korean, which I mentioned earlier, but I would just like to put the highlight on once again because it's a very important pickup whenever anyone chooses to grab one of those stacking items. Woo! The flash away from Combo Romeo as soon as the Jarvan ulti is dropped, and Beautiful Korean caught way out of position, but there's the Jinx ult! I barely saw it for half a second, it was moving so fast, but Jarvan saw it for long enough to explode next to it and then go down. However, they do give up the turret in mid lane. The secondary turret in mid lane, first secondary turret of the game, going to be falling. Red team picking up that one, getting a 4-5 turret score, and Shinshin's going very low, hit by the zap as well. Jayce is off to the side. RF Legendary is going to pick up the kill with a few short auto attacks with that 2.5 attack speed. Flash away from Nami, and this is starting to turn disastrous for Red Team. I mean, they got the objective, but at what cost? RF Legendary flashes and fires out a Q, but it doesn't actually land onto anybody. Pause dashes away to one of his soldiers. The zap lands, though, so he is done for at this point. Another auto attack from Combo Romeo seals the deal, and Cloud Nguyen has his ult now. He's going to be leaving onto somebody. He was right next to a pink ward, but he doesn't really care if they can see him. He was just using it for the gap closer. Jinx finishes off another kill, and Nguyen now, with the extra speed buff from coming out of his ult, is gonna give RF Legendary the kill and the double buffs. Here comes Panchi to try and maybe avenge some of his teammates, but this would be a very, very dangerous game for him. He's all alone, and blue team has a lot of people nearby. They're pushing in, and they want a secondary turret of their own. And that is a very, very confusing 5 turret score, because I looked at the minimap just now. They have only taken out 4 actual turrets. I guess it's counting Azir's turrets as turret kills, but I'll get back to that in just a second. Combo Romeo with the Vladimir ult popping on him. Actually, Vlad goes into the Zhonya's as soon as the pool is over. Delayed it as long as he could. I'll give him that, but it wasn't quite long enough. Still goes down. Beautiful Korean, getting 2 more stacks on that Jayce, and getting a lot more AP because of it. Good burst coming from RF Legendary, and it looks like blue team is starting to take a serious lead in this game. They do have a 4,000 gold lead numbers, how do I do them, as well as a turret lead of actually, no, they don't have a turret lead. They're even on turrets. It says 6-4, but those 2 are 2 Azir turrets, which have fallen over and not actual turrets, and for some reason, the spectator client is counting them as actual turrets, so I would just like to clarify that for you guys. It is actually a 4-4 turret score right now, because these teams are even in many, many ways, one of them being turret kills, though actually they're no longer even. That running joke has kind of run itself into the ground at this point, because blue team has taken a fairly substantive lead. They're going to be pushing up the mid lane. 4 members strong, their 5th still back at base. This might actually be a little bit of an ill-advised choice by them, because red is circling around. They're looking for some kind of engaged pause. Maybe he has it right here. The Emperor's Divide is going to knock beautiful Korean away, and the ulti from Nami's gonna hit 2 of them, but no follow-up from the rest of her team, and neither team's gonna fully engage on this one. This is giving more time for Cloud Nguyen to get towards the fight here. He's coming from base, he's on his way, and he'll be here eventually. And at that point, blue team's definitely gonna have the advantage in the fight, especially considering that Graves just blew up. To the long-range damage from blue team, they certainly have the advantage in that regard. Lux, Jinx, and Jayce can put out a ton of hugely ranged damage. Beautiful Korean gonna get some more stacks off of Hashinshin, who was caught out in his own jungle trying to just calmly farm a raptor camp when a bunch of enemy players showed up and put the nix to that. Looks like blue team gonna be looking to grab even more advantages off of the advantages that they've taken, and the game, while it held even for so long, has certainly broken in one direction or the other. The dice have fallen, and they have chosen blue team. Now, red team certainly has a way back into this game, especially if they can get here in time. Azir does wonders around a Baron fight. His AoE damage and his ability to jump around can be very, very difficult for a team doing Baron to deal with, but it looks like blue team's already got it in the bag. They're going to use that enhanced recall. Actually, no, they're not even going to bother with that. They're going to run right down and go for the dragon buff as well, because when you take an objective, why not take another objective? C objective, kill objective. Dragon has just respawned, and they're going to go ahead and go for it. Actually, they're going to turn on this Nami as well. She's dodging everything but except for the one which you would have expected her to be able to dodge the easiest. The silence and then snare pool coming out from Dodo 8's Soraka. And it looks like blue team's going to pick up a dragon on top of a kill, on top of a Baron buff. And this is starting to look grim for red. There's a 10-kill lead over to blue side. They have 2 stacks of the dragon and are currently wearing floating purple heads, which you always know is a bad sign when you're fighting someone. If they come into battle with a bunch of floating purple heads around them, you know they mean business. There's the zap, doesn't quite hit onto Hashinshin, and blue team's going to go for a push with these buffed Baron minions coming up the mid lane. Pause, what are you doing? You are way out of position. Beautiful Korean is on a killing spree. Some more stacks for the book. And it looks like that's the first inhibitor of the game going down, and blue team is not stopping their push. Lots of burst damage. There's the Jinx Ult, finishing off finishing off Graves, rather, and Combolt Romeo is legendary. The first Nexus turret going down like butter. Beautiful Korean is on a rampage, getting all of the stacks. Doesn't quite have 20, and at the rate this game is going, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get there, but he put in enough effort that his team is going to be able to take home the victory. That is the Nexus under fire, folks. Thank you all for watching. My name is Octavian. I had tons of fun casting this game. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and I will see you next time.